I'm John Plesnick, and this is the Technology Boom. In our society today, technology is a vital part in our lives so that they can function properly. We use technology in jobs, education, entertainment, health, sports, and so on. There's endless uses for technology. Technology has been advancing to make products better, faster, stronger, and as customer friendly as possible. Technology has been growing for a while now. We went from this Donkey Kong Nintendo, which dates all the way back to 1981, to the GameCube, which dates all the way back to 2001. And the difference between that is the GameCube, you could play any game. Then for cell phones, we went from this, a flip phone, to an iPhone in just a couple of years. But one question that everyone has is, how did this all begin? The first computer was actually a mechanical computer and dates all the way back to 1822. This computer was thought of by Charles Babbage and was called the difference engine. Charles began to build this device, but unfortunately due to lack of funding, he couldn't finish this project. This was supposed to be the first automatic computing machine, basically like a prehistoric calculator. The computer was later finished in 1991 and placed in a London Science Museum of the bicentennial year of Babbage's birthday. This is what the computer looked like. As you can see, it is massive for solving just a couple of math equations. The next mechanical computer was proposed in 1837 by Charles Babbage again. As he never completed his first project, he moved on to this computer which he called the analytical engine. He was never able to complete this project due to funding issues again, who would have guessed, but was later completed in 1910 by his son Henry Babbage. This computer was also just a basic calculator, just like the difference engine, but a little bit smaller and more advanced. Finally, as technology kept advancing, the first programmable computer, the Z, was created in 1938. Then the first electric computer, the Colossus, was created in 1943. And the first digital computer, the ABC, which means the computer would display an image on a monitor, was created in 1942. Not until 1964 was the first desktop computer ever built. The desktop was called the Programma 101. Only 44,000 of these desktops were sold at a price of $3,200, which is worth about $26,300 today, which is a lot for a computer that you had to program yourself if you wanted to use it. The first computer that anyone could buy if you had $10,000 in your pocket was introduced by Apple and called the Lisa. Next was the Apple Macintosh, which released in 1984 at a price of $2,500. This computer was much cheaper than the first one, but if you still couldn't afford it like most people couldn't, you could go to the library if you wanted to experience a computer for the first time. Growing up, my dad had one of the first computers to be released.
The first computer that I got was the Commodore 64 back in 1982. This computer was used for typing school reports and playing games. The printer at the time was a dot matrix, which took forever to print things out, and you could only do reports in Word documents.
Can you compare and contrast today's computers from the ones that you own?
Today's computers have better resolution, more colors, faster, and are more powerful in general. Back then, the technology advancements were just starting. You were limited as far as what you could do on the computers because of the technology then. There was limited software that was available then too. It was just starting to be developed for consumer use. Today, it seems you can do whatever you want on a computer. You're only limited to your imagination.
Now that we had the computer, we needed to create the internet. As interesting as this sounds, the vital piece of infrastructure on which the internet is built on was already in place and had been built back in the 1860s. Yes, believe it or not, it was the telephone system. They call this type of internet dial-up because to communicate with the person, you would have to dial in their number in first to talk to who you wanted to. Only one person could use the dial-up at a time, so if you wanted to use the phone while someone was on the computer, you would have to wait for that annoying family member to get off.
The first internet that was available was a dial-up connection. This used existing phone lines that were already in place in the house. You actually could hear the computer dialing in and establishing a connection. I was about 28 years old when I finally had an internet connection.
The miracle worker that created the internet was Tim Berners, who created the World Wide Web. As this was invented, websites began to be created, which greatly helped the economy. But not until the dot-com bubble popped in 2001, causing the stock market to crash. The stock market began to rise in 1997, but then as people began to sell everything in 2001, the stock market began to drop. People invested in dot-com companies hoping to make a profit off of them, but many investors and venture capitalists soon stopped investing as they learned they couldn't profit from the growth of the internet. Stocks began to peak in the year 2000, as some were even worth $5,000 per share. They were left worthless in 2001. As technology kept advancing and more people had computers, they started to make video games and more complicated programs. The Atari was released on September 11th, 1977. On this system, you could play old classics like Pac-Man and Space Invaders. Not many games were released for the Atari, but you could make your own games on the Atari if you knew how to program and animate back then, which was a long and tedious process and still is today.
Yes, I had an Atari gaming system, which was the first gaming system that I owned. I played games like Space Invaders, Ping Pong with my brothers, Pac-Man, and Asteroids. The resolution back then was a whopping 160 by 192. That is 160 pixels wide and by 192 pixels high.
As technology kept advancing and becoming more resourceful, allowing it to be more affordable, more and more people began to buy computers and games. People's lives completely changed as computers have a vital everyday part in almost every part of our life. The first computer that was made could only compute basic math problems, and you would have to wait forever to get your answer. Computers at the end of the 20th century could do more than just solve a math problem. You could type a paper, search something up on the World Wide Web, play games, communicate with others, and code.